and nerdy, just because I'm white and nerdy, all because
you shouldn't. But on a serious note, Shadow Paladins are, without a doubt, one of the most, if not the very most, popular clan in the entire game. So, for the second episode of my Why You Should Play series, it made sense to go here next.
White and nerdy, just because I'm white and nerdy, all because...
Okay, so this lore is really a bit weird and a bit messed up to the point where I'm probably going to make a load of mistakes. Essentially, you have Blaster Dark, who is the rival of Blaster Blade, and he just gets loads of different incarnations. They're supposed to be in the United Sanctuary together, but then something or other happens, they fall apart. He becomes a Revenger, loads of stuff happens, there are big dragons. I really don't know what to tell you, it's a bit of a mess. It's a really long-winded kind of thing that basically revolves around giving Blaster Dark a load of forms, bringing in the new stuff at the start of when Shadow Paladins got G support, then scrapping those and bringing out new stuff. So I don't really know what to tell you. Essentially, Blaster Dark has sibling rivalry with Blaster Blade. Claret Sword Dragon is evil, I believe, and he summons Aura Geyser Dragon, who eventually kills him. And then we have the Drag Wizards, who have been studying secret magic and are only just coming out with it. Yeah, there's a lot going on that really doesn't need to be. There's a lot more to the lore of the Shadow Paladins, but if I were to make a video detailing all of it in its entirety, then it would take me 3 weeks to upload it on my internet. So I'm going to post a link down below to the wiki page which deals with the lore. It makes for an interesting read if that's something you're into.
White and nerdy, just because I'm white and nerdy, all because...
The signature move of Shadow Paladins is sacrificing their own units to get very powerful skills. This can include drawing cards, adding power, or gaining game-changing or game-ending skills. The mechanic introduced with the new trial deck, Ritual, unlocks or empowers abilities based on the number of Grey 1 units in the drop zone. Due to so many abilities requiring you to lose units, they also have many skills that allow you to draw cards or replenish your field presence to compensate, which is something Shadow Paladin players are actually pretty used to.
White and nerdy, just because I'm white and nerdy, all because...
Unlike the glorious Dark Irregulars, you really don't need any creativity at all to play Shadow Paladins. There are only really 2 or 3 builds to consider. Up until the release of G-Set 9 and the Trial deck, the main deck that's been seen is the Phantom Blaster, Abyss, Legion stuff. This deck basically revolves around having your Break Ride Mordred Phantom, breaking the Legion leader, using the Counterblast to get a call, and with all the Revenger support you can get like loads of cards on your field, full board, and then you've got a Vanguard that can swing big because it's been broke road upon. It's broke road, I guess is how you'd say that. And then you can just get 2 huge attacks, and because you filled your board with the skills, it's more or less free. So it is really strong. That's the build that's been seen. You've seen really not very much at all in the way of Claret Sword or Raging Form, because they just haven't cut it, they just haven't been as good. And now, of course, enter Luard and Ritual. Like, this deck is crazy. Like, I've honestly, in the whole time I've been playing, never seen a deck as hyped and as in demand as what this deck has been. And to be honest, I really do understand why. Like, this is kind of like the Shadow Paladins. Claret Sword flopped, you know, he didn't really do anything. He wasn't played competitively, he wasn't particularly great. And now we've got this kind of rebirth of Shadow Paladins almost, and I sound so much like a neckbeard right now that it's painful. A large part of the strength of Ritual is Dragheart Luard, our main Grey 3 Strider unit. His GB2, which by the way isn't a GB2, is Ritual 3, put 2 normal units from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck, so by the way, you know, stopping yourself from deck out, to then stride without paying cost. This skill is, again I'm sounding like a neckbeard, but monumental and crazy. You know, you're striding without paying cost, you're keeping those cards in hand, you know, you're refueling your deck. there's nothing that can stop you striding, other than obviously not being a Ritual 3. But trust me when I say that's not going to happen to you very often. It's just a very, very strong skill. And the skill when you stride on top of it is you sack one and replace it with 2 grey 1s. That's pretty crazy, because that sets up most of the plays in your deck. Even the ones that aren't to do with Drag Wizards, like if you want to play Aura Geyser, that sets that up insanely well. And you know, the pluses you can get from this skill is pretty crazy. Drag Driver less Luard kind of just focuses on basically taking everything that Claret Sword should have been and playing it with the ritual stuff. So I think it plays the Aura Geyser Doomed, that kind of stuff, and using the soul for that rather than for Drag Driver. And the most popular variant, I would say, is the Drag Driver. What's the opposite of less? The Drag Driver Enabled, I guess. Deck is just about filling that field and getting massive plays, massive attacks. All in all, it's very, very strong. Of course, Luard wasn't the only thing that was released in Set 9 for Shadow Paladins. Set 9 was basically the set, other than Ritual, of just reviving a load of stuff that people hadn't seen for a while. You know, your Descendant stuff, your Blue Wave stuff, you know, all this kind of sub-clan-like stuff. And one of those things that have been revived is Raging Form. We now have Wrapped, which is essentially, it has the skill of Raging Form, but as a striding you discard 2 grey 3s. But obviously, because again it's a revenge, you have all these plays that you can make to have your field full. You have cards that search out grade 3s. You have a card that you can, when it's road, you can ride Raging Form from your deck or something, I believe it does, and then put the grade 3 to your hand, so you've got the grade 3 in your hand to pay for the cost. So it's pretty decent. It's one of those things, though, the community is very much split between whether they think it's really, really, really good, and, you know, the plays you can make crazy, or it's too much of a one-trick horse that kind of just, if it doesn't do that play, it doesn't do anything. Nonetheless, it's a variant to consider, which is something, as I've said before, we haven't really had with Shadow Paladins up to this point, where you do have that variety of decks to choose from. But now, please, 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 join me for a moment of silence as we remember a group of cards who have been there since the start, who've been trying their hardest, but just sadly, no matter what they do, just haven't been quite enough. They try so hard. We even got a little PG.
White and nerdy, just because I'm white and nerdy, all because
If I go halfway through this part of the video, it's because I've had to go be sick, because this card is absolutely fucking disgusting. It's one of those cards where there are plays around it, but because of the way the clan works and the support that the clan has got, and the stuff that came in the trial deck, essentially, that this card came in, that make it really easy to kind of bypass that condition of making this card absolutely ridiculous. If you don't know what it does, for the cost of a single counterblast and sacking 3 rear guards, when this unit attacks, pay the cost of course, he gains 10,000 power and a crit. You know, that's pretty standard. You know, we saw Phantom Blaster, Dragon and Phantom Blaster Overlord do that. That's nothing new, that's just kind of what Shadows do. However, unless your opponent retires 2 of their own rear guards, they cannot guard. Now that doesn't mean if you have 2 rear guards, retire them, or you can't guard, as in, if you don't have 2 rear guards, you can't retire, you're okay, the skill doesn't go off. No, if you don't have 2 rear guards to retire, you can't guard. Admittedly, with the release of G-Guards, this card has been toned down ever so slightly, you know, because now, like I say, with G-Guards, and now with newer G-Guards giving easy access to a 25,000 shield, it's not quite as bad. But even so, if Shadow Paladin players can clear your field, or even if, you know, you're playing something like Grand Blue or Pale Moon or something, where your field is left empty at the end of your turn, and they play this, if you don't have that heal trigger to drop a G-Guard, then he's attacking with an extra crit, triple drive, and probably winning the game there and then. This was disgusting when it came out. It's slightly less disgusting now, but for that reason, it's absolutely essential to every single Shadow Paladin deck. We don't have a better finisher. Play it. For these next two cards I'm going to talk about, it's kind of a case of you play one or the other, because, well, as I talk about both of them, you'll see what I mean. The first is Supremacy Black Dragon or Go to Dragon, because apparently having the word dragon twice in one card name is cool and something Bushy like to do. So this very strong skill, Cow Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, Persona Flip. I believe it's when he attacks, you sack 2 of your rear guards, check the top 2 cards of your deck. For all the 0s and 1s that you find there, this unit gains 5k, and then you obviously do your triple drive. So you essentially sack 2 cards to draw 5. So it's pretty nice. Obviously that soul thing is a problem because shadows don't really have a reliable source of soul charging as of yet. So that's kind of the reason why you can't play it with this guy, which is the new Drag Driver Luard. Skill, very powerful. Ritual 3, Soul Blast 1, call, and then G-Flip, and then call a grade 1 from your deck for each face-up one. So obviously if you flipped one up for something else, let's say Spectral, you can call 2, and then the next time, you see how it works. It's that kind of card. Very powerful, because also the units called get plus 1,000 for every grade 1 in your drop zone. So, cards can be coming out with 8,000-9,000 extra power for the cost of 1 Soul Blast. Pretty strong. But obviously you have the conflict of Luard wants to be Soul Blasting, and so does Aura Geyser. In my personal deck, yes, I play this deck. That's why I can talk shit about it. In my deck, I'm kind of playing 2 Aura Geyser and then the 4 Drag Driver, to sort of have the situation where Drag Driver is the main thing I want to be doing, but Aura Geyser is still kind of an option to have. That may change, but I kind of feel that you really want to be playing them separate. I just haven't found anything to replace the Aura Geyser. Okay, so then we have our G-Guardians, which is staple of course because we have to play them. So far we've only got 2. This new one right here, which is Ritual 3 plus 10k shield, just that's it. Just Ritual 3, 25k shield. Like, mid to late game, you will always be able to use this, and the fact that there's no Count Blast is pretty crazy. It's arguably one of the easiest G-Guards to actually get off in the game. And for Ludwik, the other dude, for him you sack 1. Yeah, you retire one of your grade 1 or less rear guards, and he becomes 20k shield. He pales in comparison, because obviously our Plotmaker dude is going to give us the 25k shield for free. However, very early game, sort of like first grade 3 turn, it can be helpful to get you your Ritual 3, or before you can get that many grade 1s in your drop zone. The reason why this is in here, why the Plotmaker is in here as a staple rather than just for ritual decks, is because, throughout a game you're doing a lot of tributing for shadow abilities, whether or not you're playing ritual, so hitting that Ritual 3 isn't hard. The only other card that I would argue you should be playing in most, if not all, Shadow Paladin decks, at least 1 if not 2, is Blackwing Swordbreaker. This is a card that came out quite a while back now, but is actually getting reprinted in the retro pack, reprint collection thing, whatever it's called. So you can get it a lot more easy. Skill is when it's placed on rear guard from deck, Soul Blast draw. It's a really nice little card. Obviously, you do call stuff from deck with your Luard and your stuff like that. You get these calls. So it can be really nice just to get that Soul Blast draw. You do have to be really careful if you're playing this in a deck alongside Drag Driver, because obviously Drag Driver is hungry for soul, Swordbreaker is hungry for soul, and you just need to be careful how you manage it. But if you do manage it, they can go really well together to give you that plus when you need it.
White and nerdy, just because I'm white and nerdy, all because
One of the biggest pro points for playing Shadow Paladins is that as a clan they are very strong, and with the right build you have very high win potential in your games. Some of the skills these units have put your opponent in situations where they simply can't win the game, or you build up so much resources, you then have so much more pressure over your opponent. And of course, because they're now in the next series, a semi-main clan with one of the major characters playing Drag Driver Luard, we're going to see a surge of support for it. And that doesn't even mention the fact that these cards look really, really cool. Like, even before Drag Driver Luard, which in my opinion is one of the coolest looking cards in the game, before then, Blaster Blade has always looked cool. Sorry, Evil Blaster Blade, Blaster Dark and all his incarnations and all the dragons that support him, they've always looked really, really cool. With all those positive things that Shadow Paladins have going for them, there has to be heavy drawbacks, and this is them. The cards are very expensive and in demand. I don't know if this will be the case going forwards, but I would think so as more and more support comes out for the cards supporting Luard and Ritual and all that stuff. The prices I've seen of cards for this keyword based clan, sub-clan thing going on is crazy. The perfect guards are £15 each, so that's like what, $12, $13 if you're American. The G guards are expensive, the strides are really expensive, and really just everything about it is really expensive. So that's one major drawback. The other one is one I mentioned earlier as a bit of a joke, but is actually kind of true as a con for the clan. There is a very much tried and tested formula for what works and what doesn't. I mean, at the moment it's a bit different for Ritual. There's people sort of trying to work out what works best and sort of like fill the gaps that are in the deck that's going to be in later support that we haven't yet got. So that's also something to think about. There is one more flaw. One huge, blaring flaw in this clan, which has put many, many people off playing it, despite all the positive things to come from it, and that you can do with it. And that thing is the fucking stigma that comes with it. You've seen it throughout this video. I've been cracking jokes about compensating penises, neckbeards, fedoras, all this kind of stuff. And that's because of this stigma that comes with this clan. People say it's the bandwagon clan. People say it's the neckbeard clan. You know, people say, you know, people only play it because it wins. All this stuff. And the fact is, you don't have to wear a fedora to play this clan. I promise you.
White and nerdy, just because I'm white and nerdy, all because...
So, in conclusion, Shadow Paladins are a really fun deck to play, really fun clan to pick up. So if you can afford it, because they can be really expensive, it is really worth it. Like, you know, I've got a Luard deck, I really enjoy it. I played a Diablo deck, I really enjoy it. Yeah, Phantom Blaster Diablo is filth, and you'll win games from it, but, you know, it is fun to play. As long as you don't mind the stigma, my lady.
White and nerdy, just because I'm white and nerdy, all because I'm white and nerdy.